Chicago O'Hare Airport with my daughter and son-in-law, ready for our dream trip to Italy. A federal agent suddenly grabbed my arm. "Pretend I'm arresting you and stay quiet," he whispered urgently. I was stunned. His face was pale with shock. 20 minutes later, I sat in a sterile FBI office as he pulled up surveillance footage on a monitor. What I saw made me realize my life was in immediate danger. Comment below where you're watching this from and what time it is right now. Because at 6:30 a.m. in Chicago, I thought I was just starting a family vacation. I had no idea I was walking into a trap. My name is Harold Bennett, and at 58, I thought I had life figured out. I'd built 2 successful manufacturing companies from the ground up, survived 3 recessions, and accumulated enough wealth to secure my family's future for generations. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared me for losing Patricia. 8 months ago, a stroke took my wife of 31 years. The doctors gave us 4 months to fight it. She lasted 2. Her final words still echo in my mind every single night without fail. "Promise me you'll fix things with the kids, Harold. Don't let business be your whole world anymore." That promise brought me to Chicago's O'Hare Airport on this chilly November morning, standing in the security line with my daughter Vanessa and her husband Craig. At 28, Vanessa had inherited her mother's warm smile, but lacked her intuitive wisdom about people. Craig was 31, handsome, charming, and just a little too interested in our family's investment portfolio. Patricia had always been suspicious of him, but I'd dismissed her concerns as overprotectiveness. "Dad, you sure you're ready for this?" Vanessa asked, adjusting her designer handbag. "3 weeks in Italy is a long time away from the office. You've never taken more than 5 days off." I smiled, remembering how Patricia used to shake her head when I'd check stock prices during family dinners and holidays. "Your mother always wanted to see Venice and Florence. Figured it was time I honored that dream, even if she can't be there with us anymore." Craig squeezed my shoulder with practiced sympathy that now, looking back, seems so fake and hollow. "She's watching over us, Harold. This trip is going to be exactly what we all need to heal together." The irony of those words would haunt me forever. We'd planned everything meticulously. First-class flights, a luxury villa overlooking Lake Como, private tours of the Vatican and Uffizi Gallery. I'd spared no expense whatsoever. After decades of putting business before family, this was my chance to be the father and grandfather Patricia had begged me to become before she passed. Next, the TSA agent waved me forward through the line. I handed over my boarding pass and driver's license, the same routine I'd performed hundreds of times during business trips across the country and overseas. But as the federal agent examined my documents, his expression changed dramatically. His eyes met mine with an intensity that made my stomach drop like a stone. "Act like I'm arresting you and keep quiet," he whispered urgently, his voice barely audible above the airport chaos surrounding us. I was stunned, completely frozen. The bustling sounds of travelers faded into silence around me. It was just him and me, his steel gray eyes locked on mine with an intensity that screamed danger in capital letters. "What?" I managed to whisper back, my throat suddenly dry. "Don't turn around. Don't make any gestures whatsoever. Your life depends on it." His voice was barely audible, but every word cut through me like broken glass. "Come with me as if I were arresting you. Trust me on this." Behind me, I heard Vanessa's concerned voice calling out, "Dad, what's happening? Is everything okay?" The agent stepped around the counter, his hand firmly but gently guiding my elbow away from the security checkpoint. "Sir, I need you to come with me for additional screening. Just a routine procedure, nothing to worry about." My legs felt like concrete as I followed him through a side door. In 35 years of business, I'd developed instincts for danger, for deception, for the moment when everything changes in an instant. Those instincts were screaming now, louder than ever before. "Is there a problem, officer?" Craig's voice carried the perfect note of concerned son-in-law. Almost too perfect, I realized later. "Nothing to worry about, sir. Please wait in the boarding area. We'll have Mr. Bennett back to you shortly." As we walked away from the security checkpoint, I caught a glimpse of my daughter and son-in-law standing there. They looked worried, the picture of a loving family concerned for their patriarch and father figure. If I hadn't heard the agent's warning, I would have believed that concern was 100% genuine. 20 minutes later, I found myself in a windowless FBI office, still trying to process what I was about to learn. Agent William Parker closed the door behind us with a decisive click. 2 metal chairs faced a wall-mounted monitor in the windowless FBI office that smelled of stale coffee. "Mr. Bennett, I'm going to show you something extremely difficult to watch," Parker said, his voice grave and serious. The screen flickered to life, showing security footage from the check-in area just minutes before. There we were, looking like any other family heading on vacation to celebrate life and togetherness. "Watch your daughter's hands carefully," Parker instructed, leaning forward. I leaned forward as the timestamp showed 6:14 a.m. Vanessa reached into Craig's jacket pocket and pulled out a small vial I'd never seen before. My stomach turned violently as I watched my daughter unscrew the cap of my water bottle sitting on the counter. The contents disappeared into my drink in seconds flat. "Jesus Christ," I whispered, feeling my world collapse around me. Parker paused the video with a remote control. "Lab analysis suggests it's a fast-acting sedative called Rohypnol. In that concentration, it would have caused respiratory failure within 4 hours. At cruising altitude with limited medical intervention, you wouldn't have survived the flight." I gripped the table edge, remembering Patricia's voice from 2 years ago during a tense family dinner at our home. "That man spent more on watches last month than most families earn in a year," Patricia had said, not even trying to hide her concern. "And the way they both look at our financial statements during meetings, it's like they're taking inventory of our assets." "You're being paranoid, sweetheart," I'd replied, barely looking up from my phone and emails. Patricia had fixed me with that look only wives can give. "Harold, I know the difference between curiosity and calculation. That man is planning something dangerous, and our daughter is too blind in love to see it clearly." I should have listened to my wife. I should have trusted her instincts about people. Parker continued the video surveillance footage. After Vanessa capped the bottle, she turned to Craig standing beside her. The audio was faint, but their lips were clearly visible to anyone watching carefully. "It's done," Vanessa whispered, her face pale with obvious anxiety. Craig squeezed her arm reassuringly. "Remember, we're doing this for us, baby. Those people won't wait much longer for their money." "What if something goes wrong on the plane?" "Nothing will go wrong. By tonight, we'll be free, and your father will finally be at peace with your mother in heaven." Parker stopped the recording abruptly. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more true stories that will shock you. We're still investigating their full motives, but it's crystal clear this wasn't spur of the moment. Your daughter and son-in-law have been planning this for at least 6 weeks. My daughter hadn't just tried to kill me in desperation. This had been calculated, planned, discussed between them like a business transaction. "Mr. Bennett, we can arrest them right now. We have enough evidence for attempted murder charges that would stick." "But their lawyers will argue the evidence is circumstantial, that someone else could have tampered with your bottle at the checkpoint. Rich kids with expensive attorneys have walked away from worse situations." I stared at the frozen screen showing my daughter's guilty face. What's the alternative here? You continue with your trip to Italy. We'll have agents monitoring every single move you make. Let them try again, and we'll have ironclad evidence no jury could possibly ignore. Outside this room, normal people were catching flights to visit family, to live lives where their children didn't plot their murder for inheritance money. They mentioned those people, I said quietly, my voice shaking. Who are they afraid of, exactly? Parker's expression darkened considerably. We're still investigating that angle thoroughly, but it suggests they're under serious pressure from someone who doesn't negotiate or give extensions. I thought about Patricia's final words about fixing things with my kids before it was too late. This wasn't what she'd meant, but it was the hand I'd been dealt by fate. Agent Parker, I said finally, making my decision. Set up your surveillance equipment. I'm going to Italy, as planned. He nodded grimly. We'll wire you with a tracking device and emergency beacon. Agent Rachel Morrison will be on your flight, and we'll have local support in Florence. And if they succeed before you can stop them? Parker met my eyes directly. They won't, Mr. Bennett. But what you're about to do takes incredible courage and strength. My wife always said I was too stubborn for my own good. Maybe this time that stubbornness would save my life. 1 hour later, I walked back toward the boarding gate, equipped with surveillance devices and a dangerous plan that would either give me justice or get me killed in a foreign country. The boarding announcement echoed through Terminal 3 as passengers lined up for United Airlines Flight 84 to Florence. I clutched my boarding pass, the surveillance device hidden beneath my shirt feeling heavier than it actually was physically. Dad, you look pale, Vanessa said, approaching with concern written all over her face. You sure you're feeling okay for this long flight? The concern in her voice would have touched me an hour ago. Now it sounded like a predator checking if her prey was weakening before the final strike. Just tired from the early morning, I replied, forcing a smile I didn't feel. Craig linked his arm through mine in a friendly gesture. Don't worry, Harold. Once we're in the air, you can relax completely. Maybe have a nice drink to calm your nerves. We settled into first-class seating, me by the window, Vanessa in the middle, Craig on the aisle blocking any escape route. Can I get you anything to drink before takeoff? The flight attendant asked politely. Water from my father, Vanessa said quickly, too quickly. I watched her carefully, noticing the tension in her jaw. Actually, I'll have orange juice. No ice, please. A flash of frustration crossed Vanessa's face for just a moment. Dad, citrus isn't good for you on flights. You should stick to water for hydration. I'm fine, sweetheart. Orange juice sounds perfect right now. As we taxied down the runway, I studied my daughter's profile in the dim cabin lighting. When had she learned to lie so smoothly? When had my little girl become capable of murder? So, Dad, Vanessa said once we were airborne over the Midwest, with Mom gone, you're carrying such a huge burden running both companies alone without any help. Here it was, Plan B, just like Agent Parker had predicted. I've managed fine for 35 years through good times and bad. But you don't have to manage alone anymore, Craig chimed in from across the aisle. Vanessa has a business degree from Northwestern. She understands the manufacturing industry inside and out. Vanessa leaned closer to me. What if we started transitioning some responsibilities gradually? You could sign over operational control of the Chicago facility to me, just to lighten your load. I pretended to consider this proposal carefully. That's a significant step, honey. Very significant for the company. You'd still own everything, Craig added smoothly, but having Vanessa's name on operational documents would streamline decision-making processes. And if something happened to you, God forbid, there wouldn't be complicated legal issues tying up the business. The casual way he said, "if something happened to you," made my skin crawl with disgust. "We could also look at the commercial real estate holdings," Vanessa added. "Transfer some properties into my name for estate planning purposes and tax benefits." They wanted seamless asset transition when I died, which they expected would happen within hours on this flight. "Let me think about it," I said, closing my eyes and pretending to nap. 3 hours into the flight, Vanessa tried again with more urgency. "Dad, about that water, you really should stay hydrated." "I'm fine with juice, sweetheart." "But you haven't had water since Chicago. You could get seriously dehydrated at this altitude." The persistence was almost comical now. My daughter desperately trying to convince me to drink her poison. "I'll drink when I'm thirsty, Vanessa." I caught Craig checking his phone repeatedly, typing quickly, updating those mysterious people who wouldn't wait much longer for their blood money. Halfway through the flight over the Atlantic Ocean, I spotted Agent Rachel Morrison 3 rows behind us. She gave me an imperceptible nod of reassurance. When I returned from the restroom, Vanessa held a fresh water bottle in her hands. "The flight attendant brought this especially for you, Dad. It's the good imported kind you like." I looked at the bottle carefully. The seal appeared intact, but I knew better than to trust appearances. "Thanks, but I'm still working on my juice." Before you continue, make sure to hit that subscribe button because this story gets even more intense. The disappointment in her eyes was unmistakable and, honestly, heartbreaking. As hours dragged on endlessly, Craig grew more agitated, checking his watch constantly like a man running out of time. Whatever timeline they operated on, I wasn't cooperating with their murder schedule. "Harold," Craig said during meal service, "you barely touched your food. Are you feeling all right? You seem off." "Just not hungry right now." "You should eat something substantial. Keep your strength up for all the walking we'll do in Florence." The fake concern was honestly insulting to my intelligence. 8 hours into the flight, Vanessa made one final desperate attempt. "Dad, when we get back to Chicago in 3 weeks, maybe we could meet with estate lawyers about the business transition, just to explore options." "Maybe," I said non-committally, watching them carefully. I saw them exchange a worried look between each other. They were running out of time and options quickly. 10 hours later, as the plane touched down in Florence, I felt both relief and dread simultaneously. I'd survived the flight, but the real test was just beginning in Italy. Florence spread before us like a Renaissance painting come to life in vibrant colors. The terracotta rooftops gleamed in the afternoon sun, and the Arno River wound through the city like a silver ribbon cutting through history. Under different circumstances, I would have been mesmerized by the stunning beauty. Instead, I was calculating survival odds and escape routes. Our taxi wound through narrow cobblestone streets past the Duomo Cathedral. Vanessa and Craig pressed against the windows like excited tourists on their first European adventure. "Look at that, Dad!" Vanessa exclaimed, gesturing toward the Ponte Vecchio bridge. "Mom would have absolutely loved this view." The mention of Patricia felt like a knife twisting in my chest painfully. She was using her mother's memory to manipulate me emotionally. "She would have," I agreed quietly, fighting back unexpected tears. The Hotel Brunelleschi sat in the heart of the historic district near the main plaza. As we arrived, a distinguished man in an impeccably tailored suit approached our taxi immediately. "Mr. Bennett, welcome to Florence," he said in perfect English. "I'm Antonio, the hotel manager." He shook my hand with a grip that lingered just long enough to slip a small device into my palm secretly. "If there's anything you need," he said with subtle emphasis, "contact me directly at any hour." Antonio was my FBI lifeline in this foreign city. Our suite overlooked the Arno River perfectly. Craig immediately started planning our detailed itinerary. "We should hit the Uffizi tomorrow," he said, spreading colorful brochures across the marble table. "Then the Accademia to see Michelangelo's David sculpture." We spent the afternoon wandering Florence's historic center together. The Piazza della Signoria bustled with tourists from around the world. Vanessa bought an expensive silk scarf. Craig took dozens of photos, playing the devoted son-in-law, documenting our family vacation for social media. The performance was absolutely flawless. "You know what would be amazing?" Craig said as we sat at a cafe overlooking the Duomo Cathedral.
"A day trip to the Tuscan countryside. There are these incredible hilltop villages completely off the beaten path." My coffee suddenly tasted bitter in my mouth. Here it was, set up for attempt number 2. "That sounds lovely," Vanessa added enthusiastically. "But maybe too much driving for Dad? Those mountain roads can be really winding and dangerous." The fake concern was masterful acting. "I can handle a little driving," I said carefully. "Where did you have in mind exactly?" Craig showed me photos on his phone of rolling hills dotted with ancient cypress trees. "There's this amazing lookout point about 90 minutes outside the city. Incredible panoramic views, absolutely perfect for family photos. Very secluded and peaceful." Secluded, of course. No witnesses. "We could rent a car," he continued smoothly. "Just the 3 of us, like a real family adventure together." "I think that's a wonderful idea," I said, meaning every single word. That evening, as Vanessa and Craig went out for dinner, Antonio appeared at my door right on schedule. "The local carabinieri are coordinated," he said quietly. "Agent Morrison is 2 floors below monitoring everything. We've positioned surveillance at the exact location your son-in-law researched online." He handed me a small emergency beacon device. "Press this twice if you're in immediate danger. Response time under 3 minutes, guaranteed." "And if they succeed first?" Antonio's expression was grim and serious. "They won't, Mr. Bennett. We promise. One more thing you should know. We've identified their financial pressure finally. Loan sharks connected to organized crime in Las Vegas. Your daughter owes $875,000. So Vanessa wasn't just greedy. She was desperate and terrified. "How long do they have before consequences?" "Based on intercepted communications, maybe 10 days maximum. That's why they're pushing so aggressively hard." After Antonio left, I stood on my balcony overlooking the Arno River. Florence glittered below, a city that had witnessed centuries of human drama. Tomorrow it would witness one more family tragedy unfold. I thought about Patricia's final words about fixing things with our children before time ran out. She'd meant healing, forgiveness, reconciliation. Instead, I was about to watch our daughter reveal herself as a killer. But maybe knowing the truth, however painful, was better than living a dangerous lie forever. The Tuscan countryside unfolded before us like a postcard from paradise itself. Rolling hills covered in endless olive groves stretched to the horizon, punctuated by ancient stone farmhouses and tall cypress trees. The morning sun cast everything in golden light that photographers dream about. Craig drove our rental BMW with steady confidence along winding roads. Vanessa sat in the passenger seat, pointing out picturesque villages on distant hilltops. "This is incredible, Dad," Vanessa said, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "Mom always dreamed of seeing Tuscany." Every mention of Patricia felt calculated now, weaponized against me. "She would have loved every minute of it," I replied, my hand touching the emergency beacon in my jacket pocket. We drove for 90 minutes through winding roads, passing vineyards where workers harvested grapes under the warm Italian sun. The beauty was absolutely breathtaking.
but I felt like I was being driven to my execution. "There it is," Craig announced, pulling into a gravel parking area. "The lookout point." Before us stretched a panoramic vista of Tuscan hills rolling endlessly. A low stone wall marked the edge, beyond which the ground dropped away into a steep ravine hundreds of feet deep. "Perfect spot for family photos," Vanessa said, pulling out her phone quickly. I looked down carefully. The drop was easily 300 feet onto jagged rocks below. A fall would be instantly fatal, without question. "Dad, come stand here," Craig called, positioning himself near the wall. "The lighting is absolutely perfect right now." Every instinct screamed danger loudly, but I walked over slowly. If this was happening, I needed it where the FBI could see everything clearly. "A little closer to the edge," Vanessa directed, raising her phone camera. "The background will be absolutely amazing." I stepped closer, my heels now inches from the drop into oblivion. The wind carried the scent of wild herbs and distant church bells ringing. "Perfect. Now put your arm around Craig." Craig stepped beside me, his hand resting on my shoulder firmly. To anyone watching, it looked like a touching father and son-in-law moment. "Smile, Harold," Vanessa called out. But I was watching Craig's face, seeing the internal struggle playing out. His hand trembled slightly against my shoulder. "This is for the best," he whispered so only I could hear. "You've been so sad since Patricia died. Maybe it's time for you to be with her in peace." His hand pressed firmer against my back, preparing to push. "Craig," I said quietly but firmly, "Patricia would be heartbroken if she could see what you've both become." Something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, pain, maybe the person he used to be. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his hand tensing for the final push. In that moment, I felt strangely calm about everything. If this was how it ended, at least I'd know the truth. But instead of the push, I heard car doors slamming hard. "Polizia! Nobody move!" 4 Italian police officers appeared from behind our car, weapons drawn and ready. Behind them, Agent Rachel Morrison emerged from a second vehicle, her FBI badge clearly visible. Craig's hand jerked away as if burned by fire. His face went completely white. "Mr. Bennett, please step away from the wall immediately," one officer called in heavily accented English. I walked slowly toward the police, legs unsteady beneath me. Behind me, Vanessa's voice was high and panicked.
"What's going on? We're just tourists."
But Craig said absolutely nothing. He stood frozen, staring at the officers with the expression of a man whose entire world had collapsed forever. Agent Morrison approached me carefully. "Are you injured at all?" "No, but another few seconds." She nodded grimly. "We saw everything clearly. Your son-in-law was preparing to push you. We have it all recorded." Make sure you like, share, and subscribe because the conclusion will absolutely shock you to your core.